United States military has engaged in cognitive warfare following the latest encounter between its warships and the Chinese Navy. Spearheaded by the USS Theodore Roosevelt and the Liaoning, respectively, both countries have deployed aircraft carrier strike groups to the East and South China Seas. On Sunday, the US made available a photo that showed one of its guided missile destroyers, the USS Muston, observing the Liaoning group, an action intended to transmit a clear-cut message to the Chinese. The photo, taken somewhere in the East China Sea, showed Commander Robert J. Briggs and his Deputy Commander Richard D. Sly watching the Liaoning, situated only a few thousand metres away. Andre Chang, the editor-in-chief of the Canada-based Canwag Defence Review, believed the photo was a warning to the PLA that the US was fully knowledgeable about the Liaoning strike group. The Beijing-based South China Sea Strategic Situation Probing Initiative observed that the US military had escalated the deployment of aircraft and warships to the East and South China Seas. It also stated the USS Muston was seen near the mouth of the Yangtze River on April 3rd, and since last Sunday has been shadowing the Liaoning group through the East and South China Seas. The Japanese Defense Ministry deployed the destroyer JS Suzuki and 2 patrol aircrafts to monitor the strike group as it passed between Okinawa and Miyako Island on Sunday. According to the Pentagon, US Defense Secretary Austin Lloyd had a telephone conversation with his Philippine counterpart, Delfin Lorenzana, to reassert their joint commitment to their cooperation after Chinese vessels converged at a contested reef. China asserted the presence of the 200 vessels near Whitsand Reef as normal and legitimate, and said officials are keeping close communications with the Philippines. However, the Philippines has expressed the vessels as a maritime militia, and last week the broadcaster ABS-CBN alleged 2 armed Chinese vessels drove away the ship carrying its news crew near Palawan. The broadcaster declared it was the first recorded occurrence of a military maneuver against a civilian vessel. On Sunday, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned of rumours of war relating to escalating tensions between Taiwan and Beijing. He said it would be a serious mistake for China to launch an attack on Taiwan. He also conveyed real concerns about Russia's large gathering of troops near Ukraine's border. Blinken did not say whether the US military would intervene. "I'm not going to get into hypotheticals," but declared there would be consequences. Talking to host Chuck Todd on the public affairs program NBC's Meet the Press, Blinken spoke directly of Communist China's engaging in militaristic actions in Taiwan.
We have a commitment to Taiwan under the Taiwan Relations Act, a bipartisan commitment that's existed for many, many years to make sure that Taiwan has the ability to defend itself and to make sure that we're sustaining peace and security in the Western Pacific. We stand behind those commitments, and all I can tell you is it would be a serious mistake for anyone to try to change the existing status quo by force.
A year ago, the Chinese Navy began holding military exercises in the Yellow Sea, the Bohai Sea, the East China Seas, and the South China Sea. According to Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense, the Chinese regime has positioned more than 1,500 ballistic and cruise missiles that could be directed at Taiwan at any given moment. Regarding China's recent military exercises in the Taiwan Strait, the CCP defended the People's Liberation Army exercises as necessary to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Beijing views democratic Taiwan as part of its region that must reunite with the mainland on the basis of one country, 2 systems, even by force. The communist regime has made it clear that it will ensure that the self-ruled island does not gain independence at all costs. Concerning Russia's recent troop build-ups, the US State Department revealed Blinken held discussions with foreign ministers Heiko Maas of Germany and Jean-Yves Le Drian of France last Friday. Blinken and Le Drian discussed the need for Russia to end its dangerous and irresponsible rhetoric. Its military build-up in occupied Crimea and along Ukraine's borders, said State Department spokesman Ned Price. In another call, Blinken and Mas emphasised the importance of supporting Ukraine against unilateral Russian provocations. As we speak right now, Blinken told Todd, "I have to tell you I have real concerns about Russia's actions on the borders of Ukraine. There are more Russian forces massed on those borders than at any time since 2014 when Russia first invaded. That's why we're in very close contact, in close coordination with our allies and partners in Europe." He added, "President Biden's been very clear about this. If Russia acts recklessly or aggressively, there will be costs. There will be consequences." The friction has amplified tensions in Russia's association with both the United States and Europe. The Communist China and Iran marked their 50th partnership this year by signing a 25-year deal known as Comprehensive Cooperation Plan, which is estimated to be worth $400 billion in Chinese investments that involve massive exports of Iranian oil. Foreign Ministers Javad Zarif and Wang Yi signed the deal on March 27 in Tehran, which further strengthens their relationship. The deal covers political, strategic and economic components and comes at a time when Iran is suffering from crippling unilateral sanctions applied by former US President Donald Trump. In February, Iran refused to talk with the US about signing back onto the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which left the countries in a stalemate. Some believe the new China-Iran deal will weaken US leverage over Iran. Former Chinese ambassador to Iran, Hua Liming, said both China and Iran are interested in promoting their close ties publicly, which has reflected a changed reality. As China cares much less about what the US thinks, we will no longer be restrained by those largely self-imposed restrictions on fostering close ties with Iran. The Wall Street Journal reported that China is expected to import 918,000 barrels a day from Iran in March, the highest volume since a full US oil embargo was imposed against Iran 2 years ago. British writer and analyst of politics and international relations Tom Fowdy called the deal the start of a tricky Middle East balancing act for China in an RT op-ed. Irrespectively, the new deal will alter the global balance of power and make it increasingly difficult for America to put pressure on Iran the same way as before, Fowdy said. Dinesh Vendari, senior advisor at the International Crisis Group and co-author of a book on Iran's relations with China and Russia, expressed a similar opinion to WSJ. The agreement with China sends a signal that it has strong allies, including a country with a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. But the partnership has limits and won't change the way China does business in the Middle East.